Although the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, claims to be a proletarian party, the lowest class in China is always the first to be abandoned by the party.
See, that's how this place is run. This is the way it's run even when there is no epidemic. Which leader did this? Which one of the leaders wants to do this? He wants to kill all the people inside here, doesn't he? That's it. They drove people crazy and broke them this year, and now they're going to do it again. Which leader is it?
There are many managed places like this in China called urban villages. They are traditional villages that remain in urban areas. It's a unique phenomenon that has emerged during the process of urbanization in mainland China. In the 30 years since the reform and opening up in 1978, some economically developed areas such as the Pearl River Delta and some provincial capitals have seen a rapid expansion of their cities. The rural villages on the outskirts of these cities have been annexed into the urban map. They are surrounded by high-rise buildings, thus becoming villages in the city. Because of the low cost of housing, such areas have become the home of another large group of the population, China's migrant and peasant workers. They have left behind their peasant status and come to the cities to seek a better life. But they receive no recognition from the cities and are treated differently from the city people. Why can't I get in? Why can't I get in? I want to talk to your manager. I'm the supervisor. Why won't you let me in? I am here to buy stuff and spend too. Don't look down on people. I am here to buy stuff and to spend. What you are doing makes no sense. Do you think I came here to steal? I am not a pickpocket. I came here to buy needles and thread. You don't have them. Such a big city, and you don't even have merchandise like needles and thread. What kind of stuff are you selling? Why don't you allow people to enter? Who said that? He said that? I'm here to spend money, but you make me look like what? Soon after seizing power in 1958, the CCP forgot its promise to help the peasants. Instead, it divided the population into two separate systems, that is, the urban and the rural areas. Since then, Chinese peasants have been bound by such a system, chained to the farmland with no freedom to move freely. They couldn't come to the cities and work there as they like. It was only after the reform and opening up in the 1980s and the implementation of a system to lease the rural land, peasants were gradually allowed to work and do business in the urban areas. With the huge economic gap between the urban and rural areas, many rural peasants went to the cities to seek opportunities, creating an influx of migrant workers in 1988. Rural workers are called migrant workers by local urban residents. The cheap labor they provided became an advantage in attracting foreign investment in mainland China. However, entering the year 2023, when the COVID lockdowns ended but the confidence of international investors and multinational corporations was already shattered by the CCP, many foreign investors left, and the factories on which the migrant workers depended on for their livelihoods closed down in large numbers.
现在的广州已经不是10年前的广州了。 10 years ago, Guangzhou was the place of choice for migrant workers. Now Guangzhou is the place where workers pack up their bags and leave. When a business is announced to close down, only regular employees can get compensation, and the temporary workers and contract workers are told to leave. Most factories use contract workers and temporary workers. 10 years ago, I worked in that factory. I had to stand for 12 hours a day. There were 2 shifts a day. I can only sit on a stool for a break when having lunch. I wore a full bodysuit with only eyes visible. Anyone who has worked on an assembly line knows that there is no room for you to catch a breath. It was so tiring, but the pay was very low. People born in the 1970s and 80s have basically been phased out. 现在找工作是工厂挑人。
The factories in the footage were among the first choices for migrant workers, plus construction sites. Migrant workers generally have a low level of education, so they are mainly engaged in labor work. They tend to have the worst working conditions, toughest environments, and lowest incomes among the employed population. It's a common practice for Chinese companies to violate the labor law in varying degrees. Thus, the tragedy of migrant workers having to petition to collect their wages keeps happening time and again. Where are the leaders? Are they freaking playing chicken now? Fine, if you take me, you have to take these leaders too. All the people responsible at that time should be taken as well. Why should you only take me away? Don't touch that door. This is Guomei Electrical Appliances. It owes money and won't pay. They arrested the migrant laborers. What is the basis to handcuff us workers? On what grounds? We didn't do anything. We just asked for our money as usual. You can't take us away. Don't take them away. Don't take them away. Get the cell phone out a little more to record everything. I have summoned you. Keep in mind, okay? If you make trouble and it escalates to me, I will punish you for obstructing a public officer. You will be sentenced to prison. Remember that, okay? Whatever happens, it can be dealt with over time, okay? You guys, give me your hands. Wait, no. Take the cell phone out a little more to record. We must be united, I say. The construction site is a workplace, so what should we do? We have to treat it normally. It's legal for you to demand your wages, but you must go through the labor station, the labor bureau. Don't block the road here. Do you hear me? You can handcuff us, but I'll make a statement first. Workers petition for their wages but get handcuffed. Workers get handcuffed even when they are petitioning for their wages? Come on, listen to me. Now I summon you. You stay cooperative, okay? No need to be handcuffed in case of a summons. Come on, listen to me now. I'm going to summon you now. Public security law enforcement takes priority. In recent years, as China's economy began a sudden recession, the first generation of migrant workers got ditched by the CCP. In 2022, several cities in China issued a clearance order for the construction industry. It called for the removal of so-called overage migrant workers, banning men over 55 and women over 45 from entering construction sites. Bans from the government, one could imagine, represent a form of policy direction. As such, various enterprises will automatically lower the age limit of their recruitment. According to the Migrant Worker Monitoring Survey report released by China's Statistics Bureau, out of a total of 295.62 million migrant workers across the country in 2022, 86.32 million, or nearly 30%, were over 50 years old. The outstanding characteristic of the first generation of migrant workers is that their life journey overlaps with the full extent of social changes that have taken place in China. They experienced the fastest urban development over the past 30 years, during which their lives have undergone tremendous changes. Hundreds of millions of migrant workers have undoubtedly contributed greatly to the urbanization process and the reform and opening up of China. It's their blood, sweat, and tears that built the skyscrapers in the cities, perfected the public infrastructure, and extended the elevated bridges and highways all over China. Their income has been rising at the same pace as the cost of living in the cities, but now these people are being discarded by the state. A sociology professor in China distributed 2,500 questionnaires and interviewed 200 first-generation migrant workers. The survey found that nearly 40% of them are concentrated in construction sites, while others are working as restaurant servers, security guards, janitors, and self-employed, plus 18.9% are working as skilled laborers. In the 12 years ranging from 1993 to 2005, China's economic reforms brought a lot of dividends. Yet, the monthly wages of migrant workers in the Pearl River Delta region were only raised by 68 yuan on average, compared to the national average of 1,260 yuan raised for urban workers. Taking inflation into account, this actually means a pay cut for these workers during their golden years. In the survey, 61.4% of the first-generation migrant workers were most worried about their health, but only 35% had a medical checkup. 63.4% had never gone to a doctor in the city where they worked, 58% put up with the sickness for as long as they could, and only 11.8% chose to go to the local hospitals for treatment. So, is there any protection for migrant workers after they are dismissed and returned to their rural homes? Nearly half of these surveyed workers, or 41.22%, have worked for over 20 years, but more than half, or 55.2%, have less than 50,000 yuan in savings. Chinese media reported that the highest pension in a highly urbanized city, Shanghai, is about 1,300 yuan. In regions with a large proportion of villages or rural population, the figure is about 200 to 100 yuan, or less than US $27 per month. Even with this meager amount, only 65% of the rural population are eligible for it. Migrant workers of the first generation aspire to work hard and make money so their offspring can be spared from a livelihood of hard labor. However, under the impact of the overall economic downturn, many of the offspring of migrant workers have ended up becoming just like their parents. Surely it has to do with family circumstances or a lack of education. The survey report reads, most of their children dropped out of junior and senior high school, and less than 20% of them went to college and above. 63.5% of their children became the next generation of migrant workers. Only 5.1% of them have joined governmental organizations and institutions, and 2.9% of them own their own business. The next generation of migrant workers has been met with even worse times. Magochao is one of the largest labor markets in Beijing and serves as a snapshot of the national labor market. Here, there are temporary workers, summer job seekers, and migrant workers. Local labor agents disclose that at present, even the labor market is saturated, not to mention workers who can't find jobs. A labor agent added that the last thing the Magochao labor market lacks is migrant workers over 50 years old, but assembly line factories prefer people of young age. The following 7 minutes are from Magochao, the voice of migrant workers at the bottom of China's social ladder. The job of loading and unloading at a courier company. The total pay is US $22 for working 12 hours. Everyone still fights for it. Only US $22 now? Huh, that's right, $22 for 12 hours, doing loading and unloading. And they use you hard. One person is used as 3 people. They squeeze you hard. In this market, you are treated like a human being. The job is to use you as a machine. You don't even have time for a sip of water. You don't even have time for a bathroom break. You only have 10 minutes. And 10 minutes isn't enough to walk back and forth. Even if there is work, even if you find work in this market, when you go to work for 1 day, you end up lying in bed for at least 3 days when you get home. 3 days may not be enough. You might have to rest for 4 days. You only get 150 yuan for 12 hours. This place is no good, no good. No good? But there are so many people here. People like crowds. It's one thing to have a lot of people, but the main thing about this market is there are always people who will work jobs for extremely low pay. Did you know that even when the pay is slashed to half of what it should be, there are still people who will take it? Think about it. Some time ago, even people from Tianjin and Hebei came here to recruit people. Why? Magochao is an easy place for cheap recruits. As long as you can make an offer, you can find people here. There are some people who won't work when they have a little bit of money. When they have no more money, to put it bluntly, they will work any job if you just offer them meals. As long as they don't starve to death, they just try to get by. If they have a house to return to, they will go there after finishing the work. If they don't, they sleep on the street or in the park. Even benches in the park have to be snatched up in advance. Otherwise, you sleep on the steps of the street if you don't have a place to sleep at night. The price of beds in Mago Chao has come down in the past 2 days. People who used to rent beds there or people who rent them in the wintertime are now sleeping on the street at night. In the past, a top bunk cost $3.5 and $4 for a bottom bunk. But now no one rents it, even when it's lowered to $2 for a top bunk and $2.8 for a bottom bunk. The advertisements for the beds are posted every day in the group. The bed price has been lowered. The price of the beds has been lowered. The advertisements for the beds are posted in the group every day, but fewer people are renting them. At night, there are more people on the street than during the day. It seems to me that there are fewer such people lately, right? There were more people in the past 2 days. There have been holiday laborers and summer job seekers. There have been too many people these 2 days. There are jobs for garbage removal, loading and unloading. They only pay 200 yuan to pull a cable for furnaces without paying the travel expenses. The day before yesterday, there was one job to build a temporary stage that pays $22. The guy was already in the vehicle, ready to go to work, but he was yanked down by someone behind him. It would have been easier to go back home and raise a couple of cows or a pen of sheep. Previously, in 2015, when we first came to this market, the street was packed with people. Buses were parked on the side of the road all day long, and the buses would take you to work as long as you were able to work. At that time, as long as you were willing to work, there was enough work to keep you busy every day. In the past, there were people shouting for hires at 3 o'clock in the morning. I didn't hear anything this morning. Just now, a courier company shouted a job offer of 12 hours long to load and unload packages in a courier company. In the past, there were many jobs and fewer people. Now there are many people and fewer jobs. At the job market in our hometown, although we only make $21 a day, they take care of the 3 meals and transportation. In our hometown, it costs only $149 a year to rent a place. But here in Mago Chao, the cheapest place costs $110 a month. So, you're so young, what's the point? Before working out of town, I mean for a couple who both work here in this market, one person could make enough to cover living expenses, and the other could save up the money. This year, a person working out of town can barely save any money in a month. One can't save a penny, guaranteed. This year, you can't save much, even if you have saved over a long period of time, because there is little left after all the monthly living expenses. Now in the market, what they said to do is not the same as the actual work. There are scams? Yes, there are many scams. I don't care about some of the work offered in this market. Now I use apps to look for work. You can find work in hotels on your cell phone. Inside the hotel, it pays at least US $2.80 an hour to work as a server, at least US $3 an hour to work in the kitchen, and at least US $3.50 an hour to work as a dishwasher. Those are temporary jobs in hotels that deduct their wages. You can choose to work on a temporary basis or on a long-term basis. Wages of courier companies aren't high? Right, this is only Jingdong. It pays US $26.50 for a total of 12 hours. The Rush company pays US $22 for 12 hours. Others like Depan, Shanfang, and Postal don't hire people anymore. Drivers, recruiting drivers wages settled daily, inclusive of food and housing, $57. Some individuals hear what I just said. That is, some people will leave once they get the money for the day. There are people who I just mentioned that they will take whatever work there is as long as it pays. As long as it pays, they will go without asking for any details. Normally, people will buy a piece of clothing and bargain for it. They probably run out of money. That is, some people will stop working once they have money on hand. They will spend time at the internet cafe or lottery store till they run out of money. After that, to put it bluntly, they will work on any job, even if they only get paid a bowl of rice. The store on the street, I heard, was looking for people this morning, but now it's closed down. No more work. I haven't heard any hiring calls in the past 2 days. The courier companies don't even call out anymore. Have you heard them? In the past, during the June 18th period, or in the middle of June, almost all the courier companies would recruit people. But these 2 days, no courier companies were looking for people. These 2 days at noon, it was so hot that you could fry eggs on the ground. When someone is looking to hire 1 or 2 people, the whole market gathers around. The more it's like this, the more the price won't go up. With so many people competing for jobs, the price is sure to be taken down. Here, they offer you US $28. In the end, you will probably only get US $22. So you'll probably make $830 to $970 at most for a month. What about delivering takeout? That's considered a well-paid job. Yeah, in the past years you could easily make $1,400 a month delivering lunch and dinner. This year you work hard all day, getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning to deliver breakfast, lunch and dinner, 3 meals a day, and then you make $800 or $900 a month at the most. In Beijing, there are 3 guaranteed jobs: security guards, janitors, and nannies. They need people for these types of jobs year-round. Would you do it? The market for security guards these 2 days is mainly for holiday workers. An older man said the day before that he was told to wait for 2 months before he could start the security work. In these 2 months, they need these young students to work these security jobs. This year in Beijing, as long as you are over 40 years old, people will call you an old man. Inside the hotels we work in, the oldest is 40 and below. You also need to have a decent appearance. Otherwise, if you don't look good to them, they won't hire you. Work from this job market. If we are in our 20s and work here over a long period of time, our body will be worse than a 70 or 80-year-old man's body when we reach 40 years of age or less. There are people who have no families. They only eat 1 meal a day and sleep on the street. That's how it is. In the past, when he had money on hand, he stayed at the internet cafe or in the lottery store for a night. Now he has no more money. He sleeps in the street or at the park or on the steps over there for the night. That's how he sleeps at night. In Mago Chow, I heard last year when the market still paid a security guard US $28 for a 12-hour shift, there were already people frozen to death on the street. Last year I wasn't here, so I don't know. But this year I am here and people told me these things. There are people jumping off buildings or in the river. Mago Chow, it's the most crowded place in Beijing, and also the darkest place. You know, previously, when we were here in 2015, people didn't dare to go out at night as the streets were full of fights and drunken people. Before, workers used to work 3 days and rest for 2 days. This year, the way the market is, I am afraid workers will have to work 10 days and rest 9 days. A couple of days ago, people were fighting over a job to build a stage that paid 160 yuan for 9 hours. A guy was dragged down from the car by another guy who wanted the job. $22, Rush Express Delivery offers $22 for 12 hours. Still, people will take the job. Now, there are fewer recruiting agents. It used to be full of agents shouting to hire for security work, security work. How much do they pay security guards now? Security guards are paid only $400 to $600 a month, even if they are paid monthly.